Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining.
Sorry? Oh.
Oh, we can hear everybody connecting. Please, for the beginning, make sure to mute yourself when you're joining so that we can start the discussion and start the presentation. And with that, maybe I will pass the floor to project coordinator of GREAT, Nevena Rachko. So if you want to open officially the session.
Thank you, Veronica, and thank you for the introduction. So indeed, my name is Nevena Rachko, and I work for IDC. IDC stands for International Data Corporation, and we are responsible for the project coordination of the Green Deal Data Space project. So I'm very happy to open the second stakeholder forum, this time focusing on climate change adaptation. I have seen from the registration list that we have some people that already joined the previous sessions, but it's also very nice to see some new faces here. So maybe before we would jump in and have a nice panel discussion with our use cases, and also you would join later the breakout rooms, it's important just to mention that our project has been funded by the Digital Europe program. We are a preparatory action of the Green Deal data space, meaning that we are doing research and not building infrastructure. The deployment will come in a later phase. And our project has been running roughly for a year. So we started to work last year in September. And today you will have the chance to have a direct contact with us. So with the work package leads, but also with the members of this consortium. And our choice for the climate change adaptation came due to the fact that the Green Deal is a huge policy area. It's focusing on different aspects of our society, of course. And we had to narrow down our focus when we started to think of the Green Deal data space, due to the fact that it has its transversal nature. Therefore, we picked 3 policy areas. So besides the climate change adaptation, we are also focusing on biodiversity and zero pollution. Our first stakeholder forum back in September focused on biodiversity, and you can also find a recording for that event. And also earlier this year, we had a policy discussion with representatives from the European Commission in May, where we had a more deep dive into the biodiversity strategy. And I know that for sure Veronica will share more details, but we will also have a third stakeholder forum that we planned for the 4th of December. So you can already find the details on our website, and you can register. The last stakeholder forum will focus on zero pollution. And today we will talk about the climate change adaptation. So I'm sure that you will hear more about this strategy from my colleagues. And your host will be Veronica from EARSC, and then our technical coordinator, who is represented today by Mark Dietrich, will moderate the panel discussion with our use cases. So with that, welcome to this second stakeholder forum. I'm very happy to see all of you here, and I pass back the floor to Veronica.
Yes, thank you very much for the introduction, for the opening. Nevena, so indeed, it's a pleasure, guys, to have you, some of you again, and some of you for the first time at our great stakeholder forum. So indeed, what we're aiming at today, and why we're actually meeting for at our stakeholder forum, is exactly to discuss with you guys and get to know what you think and what can you share with us. But before we move into that, I would like to just share some of the technicalities of our call. Of course, during the presentations, and if you're not participating in the discussion, please stay muted. Otherwise, we will be just muting you. Sorry for that, but sometimes we can hear the noise coming from your device, so that's why we're doing that. Feel free to use your camera if, of course, your internet connection allows you to do so, because it's nice to just see and I think it facilitates the interaction. Of course, you should have received a notification when you joined the call. This meeting is being recorded and it will be shared on our YouTube channel. So please be aware of that, or if you prefer to not be included, you can turn off your camera, or and then you won't be captured in that. We're focusing on the speakers Anyway, throughout the session, we will be using Mentimeter again. You can see the code, and we'll also share that in the chat. So you can go to menti.com and introduce the code to join our discussion. We will have launch some questions to you, but also we will use it to gather your questions from you to our speakers and to our community. And there you can also vote for each other's questions if you like them. So then if somebody asks the question you wanted to ask, you can simply vote for it. And then additionally, what is important as a part of this session, we are going to go into breakout rooms. Each of the breakout rooms will be dedicated to different topics, different pillars of our Green Deal data space. And as you know, as you all registered to join us today, you are choosing during the registration process which one you want to go to. So to allow us to facilitate the process and allow us to move you to the right room you wanted to be in, please rename yourself if it's not clear what's your first name, last name, and your organization. Please just rename yourself on your video feed. You can click on the three dots and there you can rename yourself. It just facilitates the process. If you want to change the room or you don't remember which one you voted for, but you want to change it, you can just stay in the main room during the session and then we will allocate you to the one you want to go to. And then what have we planned for today? The flow is pretty similar to the one we had last time, but we have something new for you today. So first of all, of course, that's the part we're in, which is welcome and opening. Then we will move to our great reference use cases and initiatives. So our free invited reference use cases, which will share a few words from them and present what you're working on an everyday basis. And then we'll move to the important part of moderated panel discussion. We have a lot of experts today from climate change adaptation domain. So we hope that it will be interesting for you to join, to comment. During the discussion, we will be also using Mentimeter, so you can ask questions to our experts, but also to let us know what you think and what are your thoughts on all of that. Then we will move to the breakout room session, which I mentioned, and at the end we will, for the first time, we will present roadmap towards the Green Deal data space. So please stay with us till the end. It will be a short wrap up at the end. What are the next steps and where are we going with all of that? And then, of course, we'll also gather a little bit of your feedback on that. And now to not waste any more time for our organizations, as Nevena mentioned, this session is a part of the flow of the stakeholder forum. We already had one dedicated to biodiversity. They were focusing on climate change adaptation, and the next one will be zero pollution. And all of that will be closed at the beginning of 2024 with a final workshop with all of you guys, where we would like to discuss the outcomes of our project and to where are we going next with all of that. So stay tuned for that, and already you can register for the upcoming events. And then with that, we're going smoothly to the part of this stakeholder fora flow, which is climate change adaptation. And today, as I mentioned, we have 3 reference use cases and initiatives, which we invited to join us and to share a little bit their perspective. And as a first representative, I will maybe invite close to me personally Project Harmonia, which is represented by Maria Stella Lux and Silvia Rossi from City of Milan and Politecnico di Milano. And with that, yes, I think I will pass the floor to Maria Stella to start to launch the presentations of the reference use cases. If you have any, please try if you can share your screen. I'll maybe start from my side. And if you have any technical problems, please let me know.
Thank you very much. Just let me put full screen. You see the full screen now?
Yes, now it's good. Thank you.
Great. So thanks a lot for the invitation and the opportunity of being here. I'm Maria Stella Lux. I'm PhD candidate in Politecnico di Milano, and I'm together with Silvia Rossi from Comune di Milano. We represent the Harmonia project, so I just try to introduce briefly the project. The main aim is to develop an integrated resilience assessment platform by using existing Earth observation dataset and services and integrating them with in situ data and citizen-based data. We are applying this structure to 4 test cases: the city of Milan in Italy, which is also represented today, and the case of Piraeus in Greece, Ixelles in Belgium, and Sofia in Bulgaria. So we have these 4 pilot cases, and the final aim is to deliver to these cities, and potentially in the future to other cities, a platform and 3 decision support system to support local stakeholders and decision makers in urban planning processes and the process of decision making. So we are trying to be coherent with the strategy and the long-term direction of the geo community, which is that of developing an Earth intelligence system to be available for everyone, which means not only to use geospatial data, but also to really integrate this data with in situ and citizen-based data. So the main challenge, the main innovation of the project is to expand the data acquisition phase by diversifying the data sources and the data types we are considering. And the main challenges and difficulties we are facing in that, of course, is related with the dealing with 4 pilot cases. The difficulties are related with the differences in data availability, accessibility, data collection procedures, and languages among the different cities. The very different starting point and goals of each pilot related with our project specifically, and of course the risk of overlapping and repetition with other projects, which is particularly evident in a case such as Milano, where the ongoing projects are many. So I mentioned the expansion of the data acquisition. What we mean? We mean that we are dealing with Earth observation data integrated and validated by in situ data regarding several different fields: meteorological data and air pollution, data about hydrology and geology and the risk of floodings, wildfires, urban morphology data supported by also socioeconomic data, and also problems such as landslide and ground deformations. And this is the part supported by hard science, let's say, so Earth observation and in situ data, but we are also integrating this more scientific and objective side of the data collection with citizen data, which have been recorded and translated into a perceived risk indicator in order to keep the citizen in the process of decision making and orientation for decision making. So to make some examples of which are the data we are dealing with and the related problems, in some cases, such as the data collection about air pollution that have been done for all the 4 pilot cases, the main problems, the main differences are differences in the language, in the time resolution, in the data format, and in the availability of options for the automatization of the data acquisitions. And the solution we are working on, we have used until now, is long and time-consuming processes of data processing, manual data processing. The effort as much as possible to do the data acquisition through automatic systems, so API and PostgreSQL. Open problems about this point, which I really want to mention, is the continuity after the end of the project, which is something probably also interesting for other cases. While to mention the most problematic type of data we are dealing with, I would like to mention health-related data. We are doing this kind of data collection for 2 pilot cases out of 4, Milan and Piraeus. And these data are considered sensitive. We are trying to run a model for correlating air pollution with impact on human health. And about this, we are really facing a lot of problems about the ownership of the data, which is changing from city to city, country to country. The differences in data collection procedures, which again is not just a matter of country, but even of region and city sometimes. And the missing georeference information with this data, which is making more difficult for us to efficiently use the data. Solution about these kind of problems for now is being the use of non-disclosure agreement in order to ensure our ethics and professionality in using this kind of data and try to establish trust with the data owners and providers. So with that, I ended the general part from the project, and I leave the stage to my colleague Silvia for some insights about Milano.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. I'm an architect and I'm the project manager of Armonia for Milan municipality. And as you can really understand from this slide, Milan have several problems from climate change point of view. So the problem that Milan has to face are, of course, the increase in temperature, increase in heat waves and the drought. Also, unfortunately, the extreme meteorological events, water, and all the problems related to the CO2, NO2, and the pollution in general. And so I think that you can go on rapidly with the slides, and I will talk. Thank you. And well, we try to find this different solution as a municipality. And one of these is the air and climate plan. And Milan have a very big vision and try to work as a sponge, a city sponge, thanks to several data and collecting data from the different European projects we are working on, as Maria Stella said before, talking about overlapping also. And the Air and Climate Plan is a very big innovation for the municipality, because it can work on different issues, and also on interoperability with also the citizen and the citizen perspective and point of view. And we can work directly with them and also make them more sensible and aware about the lifestyles and what all we can do for the adaptation to the climate change. And Armonia, in this case, is very important for us, because can support what is our adaptation guidelines, and also the risk-based approach of Armonia can help the municipalities in general, because you know that Milan is only one of the 4 case studies of Armonia, because we are very heterogeneous scale. Milan is very big, for example, but the approach of Armonia can really help the municipalities to identify the areas that potentially prone to hazard, and will have to prioritize with which action and where for preventing disaster. So in this case, Milan can really take advantage from Armonia, because Armonia complained to climate and air plan with also citizen awareness, can support all the decision for the territorial plan and land use, and also can support all the technicians of the municipality. Don't forget that we are started to training the technicians thanks to Armonia IRAP, the platform that we are going to develop in the project, to adopt a methodology for recognizing and mapping all the risk. Moreover, thanks to all the project, not only Armonia, but all the project in Milan, we would like to collect more data, but not only data. In this period, all of us talk about data and big data, but we need good data, and we also need a system that can work with this data and obtain a situational awareness useful for a better urban planning. So it's not so easy to understand what kind of data. And with Armonia, we work both. With the relevant data comes from, for example, the workshop with the citizens, and we collect all their ideas, and we can work with them to improve the microclimate in the city of the neighborhood, improve the air quality, for example, or the accessibility also to green spaces. This is very important because sometimes happen that the urban planners start to do something, but without a really close connection with the citizens that are the end users of that area, for example.
Excuse me, Sylvia, because unfortunately we need to go to the next presentation to wrap up.
If you go ahead, okay. So the relevant data are very important for us because we don't work only on climate change, but we would like to work as a sort of interoperability with the IoT, the digital twin, and intelligent artificial intelligence. And we would like also to make a sort of a big project for the municipality with the action aimed to extend all the perimeter and capabilities of all the technologies that can work for a better city. So I'm the end.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sylvia. Thank you very much, Maria Stella. Of course, we'll learn even more about your use cases during our discussion. So that was just a start. That was just an introduction. And with that, we'll move to our second reference, youth case and initiative, which is supporting GREAT in our gathering of your ideas and your needs. And now I'd like to pass the floor to representatives of the city of Thessaloniki. Now we're changing the municipality. I would like to invite Antti Tsakiropoulou and Paraskevi Tarani to talk a little bit about the APCAS project and what you're doing in the city of Thessaloniki in climate adaptation domain. So please, ladies, if you can join and now take on. Oh, Antti, can we hear you? I'm afraid. Oh, yes. Yeah, we can hear you now.
So good afternoon, and thank you very much for this invitation to the first GREAT forum, Stakeholders Forum. We are here to present our use case on behalf of the city of Thessaloniki in the framework of the APCAS project that MDAT is implementing. Should I share my screen?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Of disabled participant.
Excuse me, let me check what's happening there. Yes, I believe you should be able now. Sorry for that.
So, see my screen?
Yes, it's not full screen, but we can see it.
I'll try to make it full, perhaps. Well, seems I can't. Anyway, then how well you can see it. So I am Antti Tsakiropoulou, transport engineer from Major Development Agency Thessaloniki. And with my colleague Paraskevi Tarani, we are the main team from MDAT and the city of Thessaloniki that we are working on the specific pilot case of the APCAS project entitled Shared Public Administration for Climate Change at Thessaloniki Metropolitan Area. So in order to give you a short presentation, a short statement of the problem. Actually, you can see this map where you can see the Thessaloniki regional unit, actually the region of Central Macedonia, which is in gray color, while the Thessaloniki metropolitan area is presented in light green, and the central municipality of Thessaloniki is with the darker green color. You can see that we are working on an area that specifically for the central municipality of Thessaloniki, the density is very high, more than 16,500 inhabitants per square kilometer. So in this case, what are the existing situation and the demands, the challenges that we face? In our case, there are data required to calculate environmental indicators for the entire metropolitan area of Thessaloniki that at the moment are collected in a distributed way by each municipality. And for this reason, they require to be cleaned, integrated, and aggregated in order to be usable. Furthermore, we have many external actors like university labs, research institutes, NGOs, civil associations, and private companies that may hold, actually they produce, hold, maintain data that are really useful to improve accuracy and confidence of these indicators we're trying to exceed. So currently, generally, we can say that there is a lack of understanding of the environmental data market in the metropolitan area. We should identify other public or private entities that also hold relevant data and engage them so that we can have useful and efficient data exchange with those entities. While all the municipalities, on the other hand, want to be informed of the international operations in data-driven environmental policy making in view to share and compare practices, data, and indicators with other European cities. In this framework, Thessaloniki is a part of the EU Cities Mission, the EU Mission Climate Neutral and Smart Cities. And while MDAT has been supported the municipality of Thessaloniki in developing the climate neutrality contract and elaborating actually the Thessaloniki Climate Neutrality Action and Investment Plan up to 2030, the problem of data collection is being highlighted in view to have a data-driven policy making. So here comes the chance of implementing the Upcast project. The full title is Universal Platform Components for Safe, Fair, Interoperable Data Exchange, Monetization and Trading. So here MDAT, in collaboration with the Open Knowledge Foundation Greece, will use the plugins that will be produced within the Upcast project in a shared platform for integration and exchange of the offered environmental data to support the policy making. The specific pilot goals of our case are to characterize the different uses of environmental data, analyze them with a focus on intervention and informing operational decision making, to monitor progress towards the policy goals of the metropolitan area of Thessaloniki, of course, including the climate neutrality up to 2030. We will try to define the local ecosystem of various actors for capturing, maintaining, and using environmental data, such as the university labs, the research institutions, the private organizations and companies, and of course other intermediaries such as NGOs and civil initiatives, and finally test the organizational and governance challenges in terms of managing and presenting environmental data delivered to other actors and data consumers, such as researchers, practitioners, citizens, entrepreneurs, and others. Okay, so here you can see our progress up to now. We have made quite very overall, let's say, mapping of the local ecosystem that produce and maintain environmental data. We have, in view to have a co-created ecosystem for this data-driven environmental policy that we want to enhance. Following our mapping, in this graph, you can see the level of interest and the level of influence of all these stakeholders. And I can just tell you shortly that the mapping of this local data ecosystem contain 4 authorized organizations, 3 NGOs, 8 research institutes labs, and 13 university labs. The relevance to the climate change mitigation and adaptation that we will work our pilot on is contained by these data sets. The first data set concerns general demographics and occupation statistics. Our second data set contains urban statistics for functional urban areas, living conditions, a data set on the households and car and parking availability in the city, then transport statistics in the functional urban areas, urban traffic conditions at the area of Thessaloniki, road freight transport by group of goods in the metropolitan region, environmental statistics for cities and grey areas, and measured several air pollution parameters per measuring station that are in the area of Thessaloniki. Specifically, the challenges we want to face and the results that we expect for the Thessaloniki Shared Data Platform concern data accessibility, diverse environmental data availability, development of data-driven policy solutions, enhancement of the policy effectiveness, and empowerment of the local data providers and users ecosystem. Our technicians, let's say, use the DCAN facility, and we have produces specific plugins at the moment. Not at the moment. We're working on specific plugins in view to have these to face these challenges and have the expected results. That will be all from me. Thank you, and I'm open to questions, of course.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Antti. And yes, with that, of course, we will have more questions during the discussion panel. Of course, you guys can still ask your questions, and I know that you submitted some of them through Menti, so please keep on using that. You have the code on the bottom of the screen, but also you have it in the chat. And our last presentation coming from the third reference use case and initiative we invited today, presented by Piergiorgio Cipriano from DataNext, representing Usage Project, which is pretty close to us because they're also working on Green Deal data space, but focusing on the urban community. So please, Piergiorgio, if you want to, I will stop sharing my screen.
Thank you.
Take it over.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, we can hear you well, and we can see your screen.
Thanks. Then I jump to the first slide. Let me present myself and usage. I'm Piergiorgio Cipriano. I'm working in DataNext, that is an IT company located in Italy. We have a strong specialization on geomatics and with a particular focus on e-government and the interoperability of data and services. And we are partnering Usage Project that is one of the 4 projects funded by the Horizon Europe program dealing with Green Deal data space. Our focus as a project consortium is on small and medium-sized cities, and we have 4 pilot cities: Ferrara in Italy, Graz in Austria, Leuven in Belgium, and Zaragoza in Spain. And today, also together with the support of Natalia Oprea from Lisbon Council, that is one of other partners, we will focus on, as appearing in the title, on one of the use cases undertaken in usage that is dealing with Urbanity Island effect problem. And as we know, well, I don't want to introduce Urbanity Island because it is not it is not new. A lot of literature, a lot of works have been already undertaken. There are a lot of sources already available to understand where Urbanity Islands are. We are concentrating, we are focusing on how to facilitate the activity of small and medium-sized municipalities to mitigate and to sort of apply policies to mitigate the effect of Urbanity Island using a quite innovative approach to identify the location of urban hotspots, so hotspots related to Urbanity Island, their prioritization, so a classification of the priorities where to intervene, where to take actions, and then micro level, micro simulations to run what if scenarios at the level of single street and single square. So along all these workflow, different types, heterogeneous types of data are needed and need to be integrated. That means also to be harmonized each other, from environmental to climatic data, but also data about the materials of surfaces, materials of open areas or buildings, for instance, vegetation, green areas, location of trees, and so on. And we definitely need a larger amount of data. We need to deal with a large amount of data, both in input phase, but also in output, because data that are then produced by tools and algorithms need to be shared and reused following the FAIR principles. So they need also to be constantly updated and reused, leveraging on existing standards to make them interoperable. So here in a text mode, we can see the description, the synthetic description of what we are focusing on in one of these use cases undertaken also together with other partners of usage project. First of all, an estimation of urban Italian hotspot, also together with a prediction, so a forecast of urban Italians in the upcoming 48 hours. Then we have to prioritize them, so to classify them in order to allow the city. In this case, we are working together, tightly coupled with the municipality of Ferrara, in order to have a classification of hotspots. And then we will jump at a more detailed level. In this case, we are working on integrating geodata, mixing together two existing tools like GIS software, but also EnviMet software for running micro simulation at the level of a single street or single square. And the last point is crucial, because we need to share as soon as possible data, not only at the final step, so not only when we will have final results of the prioritization or the what if scenario run by EnviMet, but also during the whole workflow, and sharing data and results means sharing in particular geographical data, geographical layers, at both macro and micro levels, leveraging on standards like the ones published by the Open Geospatial Consortium that are also requested by European laws, European directives like the INSPIRE ones. And publishing means to have data fully available on open data portals and public portals at different levels. And we will, I will conclude the presentation with a very, very practical example. So the description of the same description can be presented also in a more graphical way. So repeating what I already stated before, we need to collect different types of data. Some of them can be static data or semi-static data or dynamic data coming from sensors. In the case of Saragozza, Graz, and Ferrara, for instance, we are already using a lot of data coming from IoT networks, collecting information about climate, but also air quality conditions and so on. And the idea is to have urban Italians estimation expressed in terms of a thermal climate index, both in the past, so considering observation in the past, but also forecast data, and to have an idea of data that we are considering. Together with Natalia, we prepared a very, very small subset, a very small list of example of data. So we are considering, in particular in the case of Ferrara, this list of data. Some of them are not yet available. Some of them have already to be produced, and we are also searching from support and for inputs. For instance, for the estimation of hourly shade map of canopy, of tree canopies and buildings that are crucial for a good and detailed estimation of urban island effect. If you agree, I will jump to a few links that I also put here in the very last slide of the presentation. I don't know what is happening. I clicked a link that was in the list, but okay. What I wanted to highlight is that there are emerging standards like this that are crucial, that are very, very important for the real interoperability of IoT data in order to share dynamic data coming from sensors. When talking about sharing and publishing, it is not a matter of publishing data through interactive and interoperable maps like this one that is appearing on my screen on my laptop, showing a thermal image collected in the last July by AVT, another partner of usage project in the urban area of Ferrara, with a very, very high resolution in terms of spatial resolution, 50 centimeters per 50 centimeters, with sensor level temperature data. The main issue is to have the possibility also to provide the same information freely accessible with open license in open data portals. So in the case of Ferrara, for instance, this image that we were seeing in the map is already available for being downloaded and for being reused through the open data portal of the municipality, of course, but thanks to the federation of different open data portals, so the municipal level one, the regional one, the national one, these data are already available and downloadable also from the European Commission open data portal. That's it. If you have any questions, yeah.
Thank you very much, Pier Giorgio. Thank you very much for that. That was already a little bit of glimpse of what you're really developing. So that was super nice. Thank you very much for sharing it. Of course, again, that was just an introduction before we dive into our that's the wrong share. Sorry for that. Before we dive into the discussion with all our reference use cases. So thank you very much, all of you guys, for contributing and starting this discussion, because you already mentioned a lot of different topics that we could explore further. And to actually expand a little bit our discussion, this time we also invited, apart from our reference use cases and initiatives, we also invited, sorry, a little bit of delay today with my laptop, so sorry for that. We have additional speakers and additional experts who want to join the discussion and want to contribute to our exchange. So probably you can already see their pictures on the screen, but I hope that all of you, yes, I see you guys turning on your camera, so we will be able to see all of you. And with that, I will invite Mark Dietrich, the moderator of this discussion panel, to take over and start our discussion on climate change adaptation.
Okay, thank you, Veronica. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear well.
Okay, so I'll let you play with your computer to allow the people to show up. But these were very good presentations, very interesting. What I found most interesting was that despite the fact that they're all, working in their own way, they are all tackling a very similar kind of problem, which is assembling data from a variety of data sources, harmonizing that data, bringing it together into an analytical framework, producing some results of some sort, and then hopefully allowing those results to be used to make a difference, either to change policy or take action in the urban environment in terms of planting trees or changing the water features or things like that. So what we're going to talk about today is more about the things that are the same and similar across these different use cases, and to explore this and to see if we can learn amongst our corresponding experience about how we can tackle these problems in a more effective way going forward. So I do know that there are some questions that have already been posed in Menti, and I will get to them shortly. But I want to start with one big question where we brought you all together in the context of our planning work, our preparatory work to create a Green Deal data space. And I know that, for every one of you, a Green Deal a data space may mean different things. But my question to each of the use cases as a starting point is, if we can give you a data space with a certain set of capabilities, how will this make your problem easier? And how will this speed up the solutions that you're working on? Because in many cases, you're looking to solve some problems that are also going to be solved or hopefully solved within the data spaces themselves. So perhaps we could go across the three use cases and get some perspective on that. So I'll start with the Harmonia people, the folks from Milan. Maybe you could comment on that. If you had known that you had available to you a data space with all the things that are being promised in terms of capabilities, how would this make your job easier, and what would still be a problem?
Okay, so I can start answering this question. I think, first of all, it's a matter of time. So our project is planned like 5 years, to last 5 years, and probably we can be able to reschedule in 3.5 years with all the data available more easily, because really we schedule more than 1 year for the data collection phase, and we know how many times the process stopped and was delayed and has to restart and all of these kind of things. So data availability, and I would like to say also data homogeneity between different cases and cities will probably really fasten the process a lot. And that's the thing. And the other effect will probably be in terms of quality, because really in some cases, in some cities, the fact is not that it's hard to find the data, but the data are not available. And it's impossible or very hard for a project like ours to start the data production. And also, I mean, you cannot cover a gap. If the data collection started 30 years ago, you have a certain kind of availability. If you have to start now, it's different. So in the ideal hypothesis of the data availability and homogeneity between cases, but it's something not possible also to be referred to the past years, the quality of the outcome will definitely be improved and more homogeneous, more equal between different cases.
Thanks very much. I'll quickly go to Sylvia to see if you have any additional points.
Well, more related to the municipality, because I told you before that a big amount of data could be important and maybe useful, but in municipality, the problem is also that all the municipalities are divided into different departments or different services and office. And the problem is that they have to communicate to each other. So I think that collect all the data, and if all the data are available, homogeneous and good data, there is necessary that there is an innovation process of communication between all the services. And I think that the IoT, artificial intelligence, digital twin, and also the big urban digital ecosystem could be the solution to not only collect the data, but also use this data for the support decision system for the city.
Right. Perfect. Thank you. Let's go to Thessaloniki. Antti, if you could give me your perspective on this question. How much would a data space make your life easier, and how much would still be work for you to do? And I also invite Paraskivi Tarani, did I say that correctly? A colleague of Anthi's from Thessaloniki?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Could I start?
If Anthi,
Yes, I could start. Well, as we...
if I am going to add something,
Okay, then I will start. So as we mentioned that our presentation, up to now that Thessaloniki set that vision of climate neutrality, we did not have this, let's say, this challenge to have all the data together in a holistic approach. Up to now, every specific stakeholder could record, maintain, produce data on his own field of activity, let's say. Now it was the first, yes, it was the first time that we had to gather them all. To have this holistic approach concerning stationary energy, mobility, waste management, and electricity, of course. So it was the first time that we had to go to each and every one department of the municipality of Thessaloniki, that it is also a big municipality as Milan, almost, of course, and also to gather again all the stakeholders, not only from a specific field, but for all of the fields. So we got to understand that there were or there weren't availability of data. Because again, as also in the case of Milan, it's not the case for 30 years ago. Some people have started to maintain data more recently. And also to see that there is this gap of interoperability, even in the department of the municipality of Thessaloniki, and even more between the different stakeholders. So if we had this data market, it would be very easy, not easy, it would actually enhance the interoperability and the synergies between the different fields and the different stakeholders. So this is why we're trying to set this universal platform and have all the available data gathered together.
Perfect. Thank you, Anthony. Let me turn now to the folks from Usage, from Pier Giorgio, and perhaps Natalia Oprea wants to join in. I don't know how many people are from Usage. There may be several people, but Pier Giorgio, from your perspective and the example you presented and the other use cases that perhaps the project is considering, as you understand data spaces, how much does this idea, does this technical approach help the project that you're working on, or do you face the same, more or less the same problems regardless of this possibility?
Yeah, thanks for this question. I think that even though data spaces are not only focused on data sharing and data reusing, I think that data sharing, data reusing, and data reuse are the main pillars, or should be the main pillars of data space. Of course, through APIs, through standard protocols, and to automatic mechanisms. Therefore, in my opinion, data spaces have one main big positive effect, that is saving time and saving money to get data, but also to produce analysis and to facilitate what we are talking about when considering crucial and important issues like flooding or Manite Islands effects. And if I may, I can give you a very, very practical, even though limited example that we faced last year, no, 2 years ago in Ferrara. So a bit before the starting of a usage project, but it was a good exercise also for then writing the proposal for a usage project. We were working together with the municipality of Ferrara, with Politecnico of Milano and other partners in a project dealing with air quality. And there was the need for many partners for accessing air quality data from 3 regions of the area. Of course, Emilia-Romagna region, where Ferrara is located, Veneto and Piemonte. Veneto and Lombardia. And it took more than 7 months of discussions, emails, exchanges, a lot of blah blah. And then where we succeeded. But what happened the year after? So after 12 months, after having received an okay by the Emilia-Romagna Regional Authority to get this data, some of them already open, but with different approaches, with different temporal resolutions, with different APIs, so not yet standardized. What happened? It was that we were notified about the existence of a standard endpoint. I'm pasting here in the chat 2 links. The first one is this standard endpoint run and managed by the Fraunhofer Institute that is collecting real-time or near real-time data coming from all over Europe, from official air quality stations through the European Environmental Agency. So in many cases, like in Germany, in Austria, in some areas also of Italy, we have through this endpoint near real-time data. So updated up to the last hour, so at 2:00 p.m. today, but simply nobody knows. So this endpoint and also mechanisms for accessing this data are almost hidden. And yeah.
So I wonder if there's, so very recently, some of you are familiar with the INSPIRE directive. Some of you are familiar with the Open Geospatial Consortium. We have Nils Himpelman here also who could talk about this. He's waving his hand. He's going to, spin a globe in a moment. There's a directive called the High Value Datasets Directive. I actually don't know what the right word for it is, but basically there was a rule from the Commission that said, dear member states, you are now required to release certain information in certain prescribed formats because it will have great value. And it sounds like amongst your 3 use cases, I know the data is slightly different in every single case, but there would be value in having the same kind of rule to say, you need to expose this data, you need to share this data, you need to allow people to access it and take the steps to work to improve that. I mean, I will ask these 3 use cases just a quick answer to this. Is that something that would have helped you? Or are there bigger problems that would remain and people would just say, no, you're missing the problem. You don't understand the problem. This is not the solution. So I go back to Harmonia. Would this have helped you in Milan?
The common data space, yes, definitely. I mean, as I said before, the not solved problem is about cases where the data collection didn't start years ago. So we can't cover data gaps concerning the past years and the long time series in the past, of course. But it's the right direction. I think it's definitely the right direction from now on. And as soon as we do, better for everyone.
Okay, thank you. The the ladies from Thessaloniki, from MDAT and Upcast. Would this have helped the process in Thessaloniki in terms of helping to encourage the different departments to share the data that you're looking for, or are there other challenges? I mean, I know there are problems with compatibility, with formatting, with consistency, with quality, but simply some kind of push by someone higher up to make this data available, to allow the things that you're trying to accomplish. Would that have helped?
Yes, this common space and this data space will be very, very helpful for us. One problem is still missing, especially for us, the same for the other use cases. I think it's that we are produce a policy strategy for place, for cities, for regions.
Right.
And for me, another issue is the spatial level of the availability of data. For example, there is always availability of data in a regional level, but we miss the city level or a small level than cities, for example, neighborhoods.
So I'm going to give Usage the last word on this, and then I'd like to open up the discussion to more of the people who are on the call as panelists. So Usage, Pier Giorgio, can you speak to this? Would this have helped you, or is that not really the problem?
No. I think that it would be very helpful, and for both private sector and public sector, because both sectors are facing the same issues when talking about accessibility and interoperability, availability of data. So in particular, what's stated by Angela in the last chat is crucial. So high-value data sets are crucial.
Right. Okay, so let's we have a number of other very, very knowledgeable people around the table here. There are two people from the Valorata project, Martin Volkeral. My apologies if I've messed up your name. There's also a fellow named Cristobal Vareco. And they are looking at some of the questions of moving from the local level to the regional level and to higher levels. We also have Niels Hempelman from the Open Geospatial Consortium, who can talk about some of the standards that have already been mentioned and that are intended to make for interoperability or improve interoperability. And lastly, we have Marco Martinez, who's the European Association of Aerial Surveying Industries, who can speak to what we might need in as a technology platform or technology layer for supporting a lot of these activities. So maybe we'll start with Martin and Cristobal from Valorado. Perhaps you could talk about your experience in your project and how this whether that experience tells you that the use cases you just heard about are it's a common set of common problems, whether we have good solutions that might work for all of them, or whether everybody needs their own special solution. So you can play scissors, paper, rock to decide which of you is going to talk. Okay, so rock.
I think I won't.
So Mark, go.
You were scissors. I was stone. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. So in the name of Valorata, maybe just a few words that I see a lot of points of connection with all the previous experiences that were previously described. So we're working with 5 different demonstrators across Europe, pretty much asking the question, what kind of data would help you characterize climate risk? So it is a very, very broad question. And our plan here is to tap on the existing data that municipalities or regions already have and try to explore the new possibilities to run different analysis to understand climate risk. So that is sort of like the overall picture of Valorata. So in that sense, we're interested in working with existing data sets. So our intention is not to demand the acquisition of new data or to demand establishment of maybe more sophisticated governance systems to acquire and share the data, since we know already the problems previously described, for example, by Silvia in Milano, the problem of silo approaches to not just data management, but the general municipal management on the territorial level is very much divided. So from that perspective, the question is to what can we do with the existing data to better understand climate risk? This question, of course, is very complex because climate risks are dynamic. So we've seen that the more global temperature increases, the higher the likelihood of extreme events that affect new people. We see that in Europe, we're starting to see new types of new groups of people, vulnerable people to certain types of environmental stresses. So, for example, people affected by high temperatures are not just the usual groups that we previously defined, such as the elderly, pregnant women, and children. We also see that because of behavior, young people can also be affected by extreme temperatures. And when we get data from hospitals, people going to hospitals, then we see that the numbers are changing year to year. So there are trends that are changing. So what can we do with the data we already have, with the agreements we already have to exchange data, to really start understanding these trends on a better way? So those are the kind of the new analysis that we're trying to look into. Another example is to move beyond the classic climate hazards approach, in which we identify the climate signals, but to understand how that climate signal, for example, extreme precipitation or extreme temperatures, might affect different and normally hidden realities that come up in the territory because of development. We've seen, for example, in one of the cases that there's a new risk emerging from flash floods, but on chemical and industrial sites near pristine ecosystems or agricultural lands. Those are the kind of information that data might exist already, but it's not really well studied in terms of the impacts, economic impacts, environmental impacts, et cetera. So when we talk about this type of diverse analysis with existing data, we're trying to identify dynamic aspects of climate risks and the potential to ask new questions, and with the same data, try to come up with new analysis. So maybe in terms of the data spaces and data ecosystems, one of the things that we're trying to do is to promote the use of climate catalogs on the local level, so that we know that data already existing can be mixed under a certain protocol indicating the type of analysis that can be run and certain rules of how that data should be updated, et cetera. Again, always under the principle of not adding too much additional cost to what's possible doing. So I think I'm going to stop there to leave Martin the as well.
Well, I am a little bit worried about time, so I need to move to some of the other folks that we've got. We're blessed to have here, but I'm going to ask you one quick question, Cristobal, and maybe Martin can answer this question so he can talk. Your belief is that you can get some good results with the data that exists, and so my question to you is, are you having an impact with the data that you have? Or have you found that you need other data? At the end of the day, you find actually we do need more data, or we need new data to be collected, or new sources of data to be made available, and the governance problems to be fixed if we're going to get the results we truly want. So, what is the experience of the project in terms of saying, do we have enough data already, or do we need more and be able to access it better? One
So
or
I think
two.
that in general, very short, I think that we're too early in the project to really answer to that question,
Okay.
because the project restarted 6 months ago. So we're just starting now the process of collecting the data. So
What have you been doing? I don't know, you know. Okay, thanks very much. I do need to move on, so I hope I'll come back. We'll have you'll have another opportunity, but hopefully we'll get back. So very quickly, I also want to introduce Ilkka Lakaniemi. I've completely messed up his name, and he's going to fix that. He's actually in a carbon dioxide hub, a CO2 hub, which is looking to focus specifically on the data in the construction and the real estate world, in terms that, you know, is a significant role in terms of CO2 production generation. So I just wanted to introduce you. I'm going to come back to you in a moment to tell us more about what you're doing. Marcos and Niels, so which of, you know, both of you are talking about common standards, about creating, Marcos has made the point, we need a geospatial data space to, or maybe he was throwing that out as an idea. Does this solve the problems, or do we you know, what I'm hearing from all these use cases, and even from Cristobal and Martin, is that there's just too much variety of the data that's out there in different places, and having a big geospatial data space or getting everybody to agree to OGC standards would be nice, but it's not going to solve the problem. So what do you think about that, the two of you? I'll start with Niels. Has got his mic open, so I'll start there.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mark, for the introduction and the nice words in the beginning, that kind of opening me the door for spinning the globe, as you mentioned a couple of minutes ago. And I tried to do that in the way, yeah, I would try to do my best. Well, the Open Geospatial Consortium is, or in short, OGC is a consortium. So that means it's a there are a couple of people working inside, but then basically we are member driven, and then well, there are 600 different organizations as members around that, and so a huge, large number of experts that we are kind of gathering together in the Open Geospatial Consortium and driving the discussions all together in a collaborative solution. And I have seen there are already around 60 people as participants on the call, and let's say half of them are affiliated or are connected to the OGC around that. So my point here, it's not an kind of centralized decision that we're doing, but it's kind of, we are moving the things forward in an let's say democratic way, or in a discussion and in a discourse. And I think in that context, the data spaces, the European data spaces, needs to be located as well. So that's fitting quite nicely into the European, let's say, characteristic on being very heterogeneous, being in terms of the structures, the countries, the cultures, the climates, and so also the data organizations, and so we are facing a huge heterogeneity. If we are comparing that, for example, to North America, then we are running in different frames or in different conditions. So here we have we have a couple of handful of big players, organizations who are driving the data spaces, which is namely Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and so it's company driven that we don't have in Europe. I would say that in this way. So, and that needs to be kind of considered when we are talking about European data spaces. Then it has been mentioned that we are now finding the solutions, and I doubt that we would do that in this call, but I'm looking forward for the roadmap then in a couple of minutes. So probably that's then the final solution for how to set up or how to move towards a perfect data space or data spaces. We have this discussion already since a couple of years. So we have Inspire, and then or the Copernicus services, or then Gaia X is there. So there are a couple of kind of data spaces already established since long time, and they are working a bit and not so much working on the other side. So I guess the solution that we are searching for today in this call will stay for a while. So the search will stay for a while. And then, as kind of with the glasses of OGC, or if you're saying that if everybody is using OGC standards, then we will solve the problem. So standards are certainly a key issue, or a key component or ingredient in the recipe to find or to pitch up a good data space. Since when so many heterogeneous organizations are working together and we need to exchange data and information, then we need to speak the same language or have the same grammar, at least in a well, for a certain level. But then on the other side, and well, I would like to kind of citate or draw the cycle back to the very beginning, to the presentation. So Maria was saying that, so she would like to have better data accessibility or an harmonization of data, or we are facing, that comes from Silvia, that the big amount of data, and then here the Thessaloniki use cases is searching for interoperability and data centralization. So that's all calling for standards, data standards, or APIs or application standards. And there is no way around. We have in this case, I would like to welcome you also to a webinar next week, and which is held under a project for the geospatial ecosystem for Europe. I will put the link in the chat, where you can see how OGC APIs basically are being used for these applications. And then on the other side, let me conclude.
Niels, I think I need to move on. I know you have a lot to say, and it's all very valuable, but I've got to get some other people in. So let's just leave it at that for now and see if we can get back to you. So Marcos, if you could tell me, you have 30 seconds to explain your solution.
30 seconds, okay. Not too much.
No, just go ahead. You've got all the time you need, 30 seconds.
That's okay. I think that listening to the rest of the speakers and listening, watching the presentations that we have seen today here, I think that there are two interesting points. The first one is that do we need those data spaces? I think that is clear. The answer is yes. No, we need those data spaces because it's going to be very beneficial for most of the projects that we are running in Europe regarding climate change and many other projects. So that's I think that we are going in a good direction on that sense. But on the other side, I think that most of them have mentioned a common problem, that is about the homogeneity of the data, the continuity of the data. So I'm afraid at one point that we are maybe defining the data space at this moment, but we are not sure about what we are going to put inside those data spaces and how we are going to guarantee that the data has a specific quality, or at least is continuous, because that is one of the biggest challenges that we have right now in Europe. We have very good geospatial data. The member states are doing big efforts to update the data, generating 3D models, orthophotos, save files, and a lot of data. But when you see all together, there is no standardization, there is no continuity, and that is a big problem that we are facing. A good example that I would like to mention is that a few days ago, they commissioned the DG for Environment. They published a flood risk area viewer, which is a fantastic tool. It's something really important that we will need, because flooding is a big problem that we are facing, and we will continue facing in the next years because of the climate change. But when you see the data that is available, there is no continuity, there is no homogeneity, it's completely diverse. So the river basins do not know about borders. The rivers cross the border, so we really need to make sure that the data is continuous. And that, I think this is one of the biggest challenges that we have, that we really need to work together to make sure that this data is continuous and homogeneous. And specifically talking about, Niels has mentioned about the US examples, no? It's not only about private initiatives. In the US, they have public initiatives also to generate a 3D model that is covering the entire country with a big high density data, with a big accuracy. And I think that is a mirror what we have to look at that and see, hey guys, this is what we need to do, because it's not that difficult, because the member states are already making efforts. Now it's time to make efforts on the same direction and working under the same standards and the same ideas. That is how I see this is the main challenge that I see right now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marcos. I want to move on. I'm going to come back to some questions for all of you, but I want to have a moment with Ilka to explain. He has a different perspective. So he has a use case that covers, many parts of Europe, is my understanding. It's sort of a broader focus. So it's not city focused. It's not an urban environment. He's not looking at technology, but he's looking at a specific use case. So Ilka, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about your experience, what you've learned, what you've been able to accomplish, and if anything, what this means for the rest of the community in terms of ways to solve these problems. So
sure.
Give us a summary.
Yeah, many thanks, and thanks for having me in a call. And actually, a lot of the discussion, I enjoyed that greatly, because it opened some of my eyes to understand what is the current situation and where the other projects are heading to. Our project is primarily focusing on the industry-led initiatives around CO2 data. So we are working together with cities where those industries are actually based, and sharing data between the public and the private sector on that side. But on the other hand, it is always driven by a specific value add or business need for the companies that are taking part on that. And the earlier discussion and the question that you put forward about what is the use of data spaces, I would like to take a stab on that. It is the governance. So for all the parties to come together, be there from the private sector or from the public sector, you would have a kind of a joint common framework of understanding what it is that we are aiming for. And that would be extremely valuable for, I think, for all the parties as such. So kind of a common framework for this is the way how you operate together, and this is the way that you will go forward as such. The project itself, CO2 Data Hub, like I said, was industry-led, and the companies involved in that range from Nordic companies like Kone, which is obviously a global player in the elevator and the escalator business, and then to Saint-Gobain, that is one of the leading building material providers. So a lot of the talks and a lot of the key learnings that we have done in Finland actually are now scaling globally. So we learned through the CO2 Data Hub that when you share the data, when you exchange the data, what are the type of platforms you would need for that to be operational? How do you approach that in a way that you go after the common denominator instead of trying to take too big of a piece of the cake at the same time? So, for instance, when we approach the companies, we told them that we are able to use some of the critical data that they have for a temporary time, so that the data doesn't get stored in the data platform itself, but you can share it for the time it is needed for that specific use case to be shared for. And that kind of solves some of the issues about that. Who do I share data? Can I trust with some of the different parties and those? And when the evidence came through that you can actually, and it was mentioned earlier on, you can actually save time and money, then we started to get more and more companies getting involved in our activities and actually being easier to share the data that is needed. The key thing, and it has been mentioned before, was the interoperability of the data, and how do you get the data flows to be implemented and connected to the data platform that we were using in this activity. And the data platform itself is a kind of a neutral data platform, not owned by a kind of a single company, but owned by trade associations in Finland. And that was one of the starting points also, that you are doing it not only for solving specific business challenges for the companies, but you are actually doing something for the sector as a whole. And now when we are moving forward from this kind of a Nordic pilot case or use case that we have done, we are working on something called a construction data space that actually spans different member states, different companies in those member states, and aims for transforming what McKinsey at some point said was a very traditional and conservative sector in the European economy.
Yeah. So one quick question, Ilkka. You hail, I mean, your name is obviously Finnish, so I'm assuming you're a Finn. And Finland has been very has done a great deal of work in the area of data sharing, and folks like Sitra and Hana and so on have been working in this area. Did you build your platform on the Sitra rulebook for a fair data economy, or did you use other principles?
Well, let's put it that way, that the Business Finland, which is the national innovation agency, actually gave money already some years back, even before the data rulebook, for the platform to be built. So it was built for the construction sector in Finland before the data rulebooks actually existed. Okay. But we are compliant with the Sitra data rulebook, and we are also compliant with the Gaia X framework. So the idea there is that whatever we do in Finland can be scaled to the other member states as such.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk more about that at some other time. So that's great. Now, I want to make a quick comment, kind of an editorial comment. I know that people have been doing what they were told. They were putting questions into Menti, and I appreciate that. But I'm looking at the time, and we are, we're beginning to run out of time for this conversation. So what we will do is make sure that the questions that are in Menti, that are intended for a variety of different people and maybe, answered by different people as panelists, we'll make sure that we get answers from you. And dear panelists, you have some homework. So we'll pass those on to you, and I hope you will do your best to provide your information on that regard. But we don't have time to go through them one by one. What I wanted to do as sort of the final round and get everybody involved in this question, I'm interested in we've been talking about collecting data. We've been talking about analyzing data. We've been worrying about the governance, about how to get access to different kinds of data. We've talked about the application areas, but what I haven't heard are the results. In other words, we calculated a certain piece of information, and based on that, Zaragoza decided to change its policy regarding something, and heat islands were reduced. Or Milan decided to change the layout of some bike paths, and urban congestion was changed. I realize it's early days for many of you, but I'm really interested in, because we're talking about problems of gathering data, but if we don't show results, nobody's going to be convinced that they're going to provide their data. So I'm wondering if any of you can share even some early results that basically tell you how you're bringing this information together and providing information and changing behavior for the good. So Ilkka.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of steal the limelight for a while on this, because our project is already coming to its end. So we do have results. And the first results is that we have been able to automize a lot of the manual work that the companies were doing based on Excel before when they were collecting the data and getting historical data as such. So to automate that, to get real-time data, to get that type of data that actually matters economically for the companies as well. So it's already a business case for them to continue sharing the data, even if that the project has ended. They have seen that it matters and it has an economic impact. They have been able also to transfer some of the workforce to do other tasks within the companies instead of doing the manual work as such. There are two cases that I would like to very briefly mention on this. So for instance, we have been able to get the Scope 3 data on real estate in downtown Finland from those parties that have never ever exchanged the data before. And getting that, obviously, it meets the regulatory pressures that you have been able to give the right type of real-time CO2 data for the real estate. But without our project, it would not have been materialized. And then the other one is that it's a very specific use case, but the biggest real estate owners in Finland are usually huge pension funds. They have a lot of real estate all over the place. And whenever you get a new rental agreement done in an office building, for instance, they usually renovate that office space totally for the new rental client. In our case, we were able to explain that instead of doing the renovation, your CO2 footprint, both for the company that rents it and the one who is the kind of the new rental customer, is getting beneficial treatment if you do not renovate it. And that has a kind of an economic impact. It has an environmental impact. And when it makes sense as a business case, people were more than happy to kind of continue that practice.
Great, very good. Those are nice. We'd like to look. We in the GREAT project will certainly be asking more questions. So Martin, you only had 6 months, so you can't have any. Cristobal just said you didn't have any results, so.
We're going to follow up, but we are following up on existing practice. If the word only was about the data, we would be winners of all winners. What we see from working with municipalities and regions, it's the data are about decision making, and we need to put the data in context. Our political decision makers and heads of the departments at the municipalities, regions, and even governments, they have to understand the connotation. They have to understand the impacts of climate change and impacts of the actions they may start. If we succeed in explaining so with the data, then we are on a good way to change the world. In the Czech Republic, we had something like 50 adaptation strategies across all the Republic. And nowadays, those are hundreds of million euros spent in blue-green infrastructure across cities, eliminating urban heat island and increasing microclimate of the cities. So the change is possible, but we need to put the data into context and explain our decision makers how they will benefit from delivering the data into action. That's our experience.
Very good. Thank you very much. So anyone else, any of our reference use cases who, at least on my screen, are tiny little people along the top, but they're not tiny people, they're real live people. So if you have some results that you'd like to share in any one of your areas, Marcos, Niels, if you have some things you'd like to point to in your respective domains, we would love to hear about it. This is the time.
I can make a start that if that's possible. That as again, I'm kind of trying to draw a global picture. That as I'm not coming with a project and results in my hand. And if you're talking about that was your original question, that what to do. That now we have the results and how to do it. And then we're here on the webinar talking about climate adaptation, and that in that we are having frames and political frames coming from the international community, and then one of the main one is the Paris Agreement, for example. And in that case, the countries, the municipalities, the regions, etc., and that Europe and that needs to justify and say what they are doing. Also, they're the national determined contributions, or they're then the adaptation strategies and plans and on the various levels, and they are going to be rolled out, and the results are being reported back to the European, to the international community, into the global stocktake, for example, so which is a database, and in just these days, the COP28 is starting, where they're certainly talking about that and discussing the architecture and how to design it, and then again, except from a perspective of OGC and kind of standardization organization, and that most likely, that probably we need to work towards geospatial reporting indicators, or something like that, or hooking on the which is basically hooking on the ideas of the sustainable development goals, for example, with their indicators, and that's clear indicators who are who meant to be comparable over the borders. I stop.
Let me ask you, both you and Marcos, this question. I mean, it sounds like a lovely thing for comparability and consistency, but how can we demonstrate the value of consistency? You know, why should I, as nation A, comply with, align with you, my neighbor, nation B? I don't care about you. I care about my people. And this is an issue that I think, it's a political issue. So you have to sort of sell the value of this consistency and comparability and data harmonization. It's a hard sell. So, do you have how do you sell that?
If I can start, it's actually really, really difficult. But at the end, I think that the evidences are there. So there are multiple examples when collaboration results in good results, and the homogeneity of the data is providing much better results. I don't know, we were talking about, for example, the German landers. They are doing their own cartography, their own mapping on their own, but at the end, they have a very well-connected database, all continuous and so on. So there are examples of this collaboration. The 3D model that I was mentioning before in the US, every state has some particularities. They are asking for specific details, but the base, the main layer, it's common for everybody, and it also helps to save money and makes things much more simple and more efficient. So maybe talking about efficiency and reducing costs can help to convince the governments.
Well, clearly that's that's a very compelling argument, as long as you've got some good data to back it up. So thank you, Marcos and Niels. So to the folks, to the little people at the top of the screen, are use cases. So Harmonia, the folks from Thessaloniki, and the folks from Usage, any quick comments of some early wins, if quick wins that you've been able to achieve in your projects in terms of coming up with results that have allowed people to say, oh, this is kind of this is a cool thing, and it's helping us get our job done. So anybody far enough along in their work to be able to point to these kinds of results? It's okay to say no, but I'm curious.
We are in the crucial step now, moving from the collection and definition of the models to the step of the results, but we have some early results. I mean, we are starting having demo version of the application we are going to deliver and the final platform, and that's also why we are starting now the demonstration activities and training with the pilot cities. So what we are proposing to municipalities, to the technical offices of municipalities, is some thematic applications to be used, and also to be improved with them thanks to their feedbacks. Of course, case by case, it's different. I mean, the quality of the outcome depends also from the process. We started from the beginning asking municipality, what do you need? And we are not developing the same things for all the municipalities. So each municipality will have what they ask for. And so that's how we are trying to ensure the usefulness and the quality of the final outcome.
Right. Good. Thank you. How about the folks from Thessaloniki? Any early results that you can share with us?
Yes, if I could add something. Well, we are quite active in disseminating our challenges and our scopes. In the framework of Upcast, we have already made an event called Thessaloniki Data Economy Day, where we have invited all the local stakeholders. We have shared with them the vision of Upcast. Also, I should also say that we have already been engaged finally with them in the terms of elaborating also the Thessaloniki climate neutrality commitment contract. So I think that there are some, there is made a hopeful, let's say, climate between us, and there are some commitments already stated for the synergy to be enhanced.
Great, thank you. And for our last contribution, anything that Giorgio or Natalia can share with us in terms of something coming out of usage in your 4 cities that is you've reached the point where you've gotten results that have been able to affect some change, or is it still too early?
Yeah, well, we are a little bit before the half of the project. So after 1 year, we already started to work on a catalog that is a sort of twofold catalog for both data and tools. A catalog that will be implemented on top of a standard-based open source solution by Geocat, that is a Dutch company, based on the same open source solution that run behind the Inspire portal for the Inspire catalog. And the goal is to provide an understandable catalog containing the list of both data coming, of course, from pilot cities, but also at a higher level, so available at the European Union level, like satellite ones. On the other hand, a catalog containing a list of tools, software tools that are not only web services and APIs, but also client software components, or even algorithms.
Perfect. Okay, thanks everybody. This has been a really good conversation. I appreciate your allowing me to jump around and being game for question answering. Again, I want to repeat that there will be there are a series of questions that have been put into the Menti, and we are going to get back to everybody with answers. So you panelists, don't disappear, don't go on vacation. We will need some answers from you before you get to leave. You can't go home tonight until you answer your questions. Okay, so that's all. Veronica, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you indeed. Thank you very much, guys, and whoever can stay with us, that's highly appreciated, because now we're moving to our discussion in smaller groups. So we're continuing the discussion, the questions that you asked and all the topics we have started. We can continue that, but as we informed before, we're having these 3 breakout rooms dedicated to our 3 pillars of our Green Deal data space. The first one dedicated to high priority data sets, the second one to technical blueprints, so the infrastructure behind the future Green Deal data space, and to data governance and business models. So in each of these breakout rooms, which you selected while registering, you will discuss with our experts from the GREAT team, what is your vision, what are your needs, and then they will ask you some more specific questions for these specific topics and these specific pillars. So we're continuing the discussion just on a more narrowed down domain. So now, Francesca, please do the magic.
Yeah, so I will open all the rooms, so we will see you there. Bye-bye.
Yes, exactly. So basically just remember to click, you should receive a notification on your screen that you're invited to the room. Click join. If it didn't appear, stay here with me and we'll just have a chat before we go somewhere else. Okay. Sebastian, Pier Giorgio, where are you going?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pier
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Pier Giorgio disappeared.
No, I didn't assign Sebastian, to be honest, to any room. Sebastian, where do you wanna go? Governance and business, or
What's your favorite?
what's your favorite? We cannot
Oh,
hear
you're
you.
muted. Still muted. I'm sorry, Sebastian.
muted,
We
yeah.
can hear you.
You will write in the group.
So yeah,
otherwise-
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
well.
so yeah, governance, please. Yeah.
Governance. Okay.
Thank you. See you later.
No problem.
Or
Bye
see you
bye.
later.
Yes.
Participant. Wait, where is Sebastian? Sebastian assigned to governance. Okay.
so-
You should have received it, Sebastian.
Oh yeah, okay. Then Michelle, of course, can stay with us. I know Christian, of course, it's work package.
Yeah, I have Anya.
Okay. So Anya and Tanya, let us know if you can hear us. Which rooms would you like to go to? And I see that Irena got back to us, maybe from breakout room. No, okay.
Because I don't have Anya in the registrant, so I don't really
because
know.
it's our, it's our consortium. So
yeah, there's no. I don't know. And Anya, let us know if you can hear us, and Tanya, same. Tanya, yeah, sure. Tanya, governance or data sets. Okay. So she's assigned, she just didn't go. That's everything.
Okay.
Yeah. There is some breakout rooms. So I think everybody's in. Yeah, the only one assigned it's Michelle and Tanya, so it's fine.
Okay. All good.
All good.
So we will give them time. I will maybe where do I have it? I will pause the recording. Welcome back to our main room. We're still recording.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I see everybody smiling. So you had a lot of positive discussions. Breakout rooms. That's good. That's good. Everybody's always getting so positive, like returning so positive after this breakout rooms.
I think we are all surprised that we are now quickly returned. So
okay.
that was the fun.
Yeah, I didn't even have time to say
technology.
goodbye.
Veronica,
Technology surprised you.
one important question is actually I recorded the session of the breakout room. Is it now automatically saved, or do I have to stop the recording, or how does that work?
So I started the recording of the main room, but basically usually it should, depending on how you chose it, after we close the meeting, it should, but we need to wait till the meeting closes. It should go to your laptop or to the cloud of our Zoom. But
perfect.
Thank you. So then I'm happy that you recorded that, and welcome back, everyone. We have just the short last steps before we close our session. But now I would like to really hear, one key message, one sentence, 5 key words of what you have discussed in each of your rooms. May I then maybe start? I see Marta as the first on my screen. Could you tell us what happened in your governance and business models room?
Okay, so we discussed what's important for the Green Deal data space as an objective, right? And in here we identified that, enabling policy targets, it's important, but also enabling use cases and making sure that there is a community behind the Green Deal data space that will will be able to gather on this level of use cases. We've gone into what was important to make sure that there are users that like to use with ease of use and the business models, ensuring that this is possible to happen. And we touch on interoperability. And for here, because we were in the governance breakout room, most of the people say that, yeah, for sure, having governance interoperability, having a framework where we can understand each other's rules, it's one of the important key messages. I'll leave it there. Yeah, for the sake
Good. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. But it's already, we see the main topics. And then what happened in data sets? Hara, tell us.
Quickly, we discussed the confusion between high-value datasets and high-priority datasets. The first one being the directive from the EC, and the second one, the GREAT term, from the GREAT project, I mean. The importance on having data on local, regional, and European level. We talked about data access to Copernicus data, some data gaps when it comes to, for example, not continuous recording of administrative and public anyway data, and not having them always in real time. Mobility was mentioned as an example of that, and lack of in situ data in the global south. And then we briefly talked about fairness and measures being taken, and then you cut us off and send us back.
Oh, okay. That's how it ended. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hara. And then for the technical blueprint, Mattia, what have you discussed in your room?
Yes, hello. Yeah, we have discussed the role of intermediaries of the logical components to implement the necessary mappings between the different providers and the users, and then we also discussed similarities and so with of the digital ecosystem approach we are designing with the internet. And also there was an emphasis on the fact that yes, it is important to have a good technical blueprint and interoperability structure, but it is also very much important to focus on the governance, essentially to convince people to contribute, to be part of the data space. And as usual, the two topics of governance and technical blueprint are very much interlinked.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's a similar conclusion we usually get. Thank you very much, Mattia, for sharing that. And then before we close this special part of our session today, which we haven't had before, which is a short presentation of our roadmap towards Green Deal data space. Because as you know, we had a deliverable, a preliminary version of our roadmap, which we have already submitted and produced. So we have an initial vision and version of that. And now I'd like to invite Sebastian Danville from ECMWF to tell us shortly about it. And then we would like to ask you just a few questions of what you think about it, and where should we go with that.
Okay, are you sharing, Veronica, or should I share?
I mean, it will be easier if you share it, if you have it somewhere handy. If not, I can share it.
Let me check. Can I share? Yes. I need to find, sorry, the right window. Let me check. No. Yes. All right, it's coming. So yeah, I will try to be short. You should see my screen, right?
Yes, now it's in full screen.
Okay,
exactly. That's the one.
So yeah, we have just a few minutes. Okay, I will try to make it quick but informative. So so I will give you a flavor of what has been our roadmap principles, and really would like to hear from you about what you think. You know that we are focusing on 3 strategic Green Deal actions, the 3 that are there. And also we need to remember that the Green Deal is, before anything, a policy with very, very ambitious objectives and binding targets across all those policy frameworks for the biodiversity strategy, for the EU Zero Pollution Action Plan, and for the strategy on climate change adaptation. So what we have been doing is to have a policy mapping of all those strategies to find and identify those binding targets. And the idea here is that following those targets will be really a driving force in starting and developing the Green Deal data space. Those will be, in a way, our dominant use cases that will drive a lot of what we are going to do to implement the Green Deal data space. So I took a few examples here on urban ecosystem. We have been talking about that today. Agricultural ecosystem, marine ecosystem, and river connectivity. So for example, urban ecosystem, the targets are no net loss of green urban space by 2030 and an increase in the total area covered by green area by 2040 and 2050. For example, as a binding targets, we need to have 3 million trees in European cities by 2030. This is something that is not really easy to measure or to track. And there are many ways to add 3 million trees. Maybe some ways would be more appropriate than another to mitigate climate change in urban, according to the urban heat island effect. And so there is also room here for what if scenario, even when you are within the targets. So we think that, yeah, focusing on those binding targets can really feed and nurture a lot of activities that are relevant for many. I won't go into detail, but I mean, I guess I hope that you see the idea. Also, why we decided that. Here, this is another indicator. This is to enhance biodiversity in many ways. This indicator is following the population of, the grassland butterfly index. So following the population of grassland butterflies that should increase to protect the pollinizer of our fields. As you can imagine, this is not easy to measure. So in this case, the indicator exists. As you can see here, it's decreasing. It has been decreasing sharply and very regularly for decades. We want that to go up. But then when you look at it, this is an indicator that uses a large number of data sets and they are not tracked. So there is a gap here. There is a huge gap in terms of policy. We have lots of indicators to be defined. Some of them make consensus in the community, some of them do not, which means it needs research, it needs to be linked with a lot of activities. And when you have an indicator, be it a consensual indicator or not, the link to the data is not always there. So again, room for improvement, gaps to be filled with public data, commercial data. There is a lot to be potentially done here. And so those are our principles. I guess for the sake of time, I will focus on the third one here, expand on trials and pilots, as well as national and international initiatives to develop and push forward those indicators and the data behind them. Again, the idea being that if we can do that, it will enable a lot of side activities that will be able to bring other benefits. Here, the term pilot and trials being really different. The trial really focus on the correct functionality. So it has been mentioned in the governance breakout. A purely technical Green Deal data space will not work, but we will need the technique to work so that the Green Deal data space is easy to use. So we have trial to ensure that, and we have pilot that will demonstrate and exemplify the added value for the end user of a product or service. Data provider, by the way, data user, and intermediaries. So this is really built in because each of those will have to assess, why is it good for me? What is the benefit I'm getting from that? Is it worth investing in it? And so on and so forth. And so this is my last slide, summarizing this. So, so this is the timeline. This is coherent with the current roadmap of the Commission, with the establishment of the data spaces. So the implementation of the Green Deal data space should start first quarter 2025, so let's say January. This is the first phase of 3 years where we want to, as I said, streamline the link and have a complete pictures of the different binding targets set by the Green Deal policies at the European level. We will have KPI on the trials. We need the system to work and to be easy. We will have KPI on the pilots. We need those indicators to work, the link to data to be made. If there are gaps, we want them to be identified. And then we have all the pillars. What is a pillar? A pillar means that if one is missing, everything falls down. So there is no ranking to our eyes. There is no ranking on the importance of governance or data set or technical blueprint, onboarding or delivery. We need them all. In terms of onboarding, I like this aspect, the ease of use. This is difficult. So users, provider, they will need help. We also have to make a decision. If there is a funding, where do we put the money? That's also something I would like to talk about during the next stakeholder fora. That's also the sense of the question we are asking to you, because what you think is important is where the money should be rooted. There are several ways to build a data space. So that was it, Veronica. That was the introduction. I hope you find it useful and informative, and please give feedback in a way or another. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Sebastian, for this short overview. And I think I hope it was enough to just at least maybe, spark your attention. So basically, we asked you this question, and some of you have already responded. So thank you very much for that. And please respond. You can still join Menti and just click through. It's a multiple choice question. So if you think that this approach, which Sebastian just presented, centered around binding targets, is something that you consider as a good idea, if you think that this is a good start, or if there is any other approach, that of course then we invite you to discuss with us further during the future events. So thank you very much for responding. I will leave this question open so you can continue with that, and then in the meantime I will as well. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I hope that it's the one. Sorry, let me just. Thank you very much. Please keep on responding. But in the meantime, I would like to thank you very much for joining us today. We also had a few more questions for you regarding, what have we missed? If there is anything regarding the roadmap, or maybe anything that we discussed during our discussion panel today that we haven't considered, so please just let us know. And I think the next opportunity for us to discuss together will be the next stakeholder forum, and we are meeting already on the. Let me just change, because I think I'm sharing with you the wrong thing again. It's not my screen sharing day. But what I wanted to say is that I wanted to invite you guys to the next stakeholder forum, which is taking place already on the 4th of December. We will be meeting again at 2 p.m. And you can already register for the event. It will be focused on zero pollution. So this is the first strategic action we are targeting and we are discussing within GREAT. Of course, there are overlaps between biodiversity, which we already discussed, today's topic of climate change adaptation, and zero pollution, which we'll be discussing in December. But I think that's the point, that all of these topics are connected. And we hope that you could also contribute to that. And we know that some of our use cases and experts that joined today would like to contribute to that too. So with that, I will thank you very much for joining us. Sorry for keeping you for 7 more minutes. And then we'll follow up with you with all the responses that we promised you, and with the recording of this session and a reminder about the next one. And we hope to see you there. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you very much to our speakers and presenters today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.